Wall Street makes a volatile start to the new year. Indices US gains to close in the red. The S&P 500 and the Nasdaq fall for the fifth consecutive session, registering the longest losing streak since April 2024. Asian markets opened mixed following weak cues from Wall Street. The GIFT Nifty is suggesting a lower start for the Indian markets. Crude gains over 2%, taking Brent to over $76 a barrel on optimism over demand from China following Xi Jinping's pro-growth comments. Gold climbs to over two-week high on safe haven buying. CNBC TV 18 reviews orders passed by a U.S. court assessing the cases filed by the CESC and New York criminal cases against the Adani Group to a single judge. The two cases have only been placed before a single judge for judicial efficiency and not combined to avoid conflicting schedules. Investigations in New Orleans attack and the Las Vegas Cybertruck explosion in the United States reveals that the New Orleans suspect and driver of exploded Cybertruck served at the same U.S. military base. U.S. President Joe Biden says there are no obvious links between the two events, but agencies continue to look for any possible connections between the two incidents. Hello, good morning. You've tuned into CNBC TV 18. You're watching Power Breakfast with me, Vinny Motiwala. Today, the morning coming in from the Asian markets is a bit mixed. Why? Because the handover that came in from US was mixed. So let's pull up the Asian markets. Right now, Taiwan index is holding on to gains of 0.4%. Hang Seng is opened up with gains of 0.3%. But Shanghai, that's a bit muted in trade. ASX 200, that's holding on to gains of 0.5% in trade. So while Wall Street had seen a bit of a decline coming in, we're looking at it in terms of the Asian markets. Shanghai was the one in red. ASX 200, Hang Seng and Taiwan managing to hold on to the green. Nifty implied open. Let's pull that up because that's indicating a muted start for the Indian markets. Look at it. As of now, 90 points down. So we could see a bit of a red start coming in. But yesterday, what we saw in the Indian markets was it opened up muted and then we saw that sharp run up coming in through the day for the Nifty. Is that going to be the case today? That's something we're watching out for. But as of now, Nifty implied open indicating a bit of a muted start that we're watching out for the Indian markets. But U.S. markets, what happened on that front? Now, Wall Street began 2025 with a lower start this time, with key indices sliding on Thursday. Dow Jones slipped by 155 points, S&P 500 fell 13 points, and the tech-heavy Nasdaq that retracted by 0.16%. S&P 500 and Nasdaq also marked the fifth straight session of losses, and this is the longest losing streak that they've seen since April 2024. Now, CNBC's Steve Kovac is joining in with us to give us a wrap on what happened on Wall Street.
U.S. markets ended the day lower on the first trading session of the new year, but bounced back from earlier lows. The Dow was down 152 points, the S&P 500 lower by 13 points, and the tech-heavy Nasdaq falling 30 points. Mortgage demand plummeted at the end of 2024. Total mortgage applications fell nearly 22% in the last 2 weeks of December. That's according to the Mortgage Bankers Association. Interest rates on a 30-year fixed-rate loan hit nearly 7% as the market entered the slowest stretch of the year, potentially dragging down demand. Shares of Constellation Energy ended the day up more than 8% after the company secured a $1 billion deal to supply nuclear energy to the federal government. As part of the deal, Constellation, which is the largest nuclear plant operator in the United States, will deliver electricity to more than 13 federal agencies over the next 10 years. The power purchase deal is the largest in the history of the General Services Administration, which builds and manages federal buildings. The contracts are set to begin in April. That's what's happening here in the U.S. Back to you, Mumbai.
Thank you so much for that. But let's move on. And market expert Jeremy Siegel, professor of finance at University of Pennsylvania, is expecting a 17% jump in the U.S. markets in 2025. Listen into what more he had to say.
Now, in the last 2 years, and these were good years, everyone admits, we had 8 to 9%. So I'm wondering now, what is going to be that catalyst that is going to jump it to 17%? I mean, that's pretty high. So if we have another 8% and most economists say, hey, that's a good increase. We're really 23 to 24 times earnings. Now,
And President of Adani Research, that's Edward Adani, affirms his confidence in the US market and in the economy for the upcoming year. Listen into what he had to say.
I still think the market's in good shape. I'm very optimistic on the earnings outlook because I'm optimistic on the outlook for the economy. I think we're going to continue to see better than expected productivity growth. And as a result, I'm looking for the S&P 500 to go up along with earnings rather than valuation. And I think it can get to 7,000 by the end of the year. But it's not going to be a straight line. And I would think that in the next few weeks, things are going to be somewhat bumpy. I've been sticking with a bullish view for a while. You know, for the past 3 years, we've had the most widely anticipated recession of all times that didn't happen. And it made sense to a lot of people that if interest rates are going to go up, you get a recession. We argued that that wouldn't be the case. So the economy has proven to be remarkably resilient. And now the Fed's not raising interest rates. They're talking about how much they're going to lower interest rates. And the consumers are in great shape. I'm still working for a living, but a lot of my baby boom friends are retiring, and they're sitting on like $75 trillion of net worth is what the baby boomers have. So they're going to have a negative savings rate, and they're going to spend it no matter what.
Okay, that's all the global market action, overnight action that we saw coming in the US as well as the Asian markets this morning. But how is all this going to be impacting our Indian markets? Let's go across to our research team who is joining in with us to set you up for today's trading session. Good morning, Vivek as well as Urmas, and thank you so much as always for joining in with us. First up, Vivek, let me start with you. Asian markets, largely positive, but some bit of a mixed move is coming in from the US markets. So what are we expecting in terms of today's trading session for the Indian markets?
Well, good morning, Vinny. You put it right. Very mixed cues is what you're getting. Like you mentioned, the US markets are lower in the session and off the session highs. So all of the US indices ended in the red. However, one key factor that we need to watch out for, slightly concerning, is the fact that crude oil prices last night jumped almost 2% overnight, and Brent futures ended higher by almost 2% near the $76.11 a barrel mark. Now, let's come to the Indian markets. Indian markets yesterday had a stellar trading session. So, first 2 days of 2025 has been very good as far as equity markets are concerned, especially large cap names that were significant underperformers as far as, or relative underperformers as far as 2024 was concerned. Second straight session of gains, Nifty sensex almost 2% higher. What aided the market up move? Well, it was the auto index. Auto index yesterday zoomed higher in the session, and the IT pack too followed suit, almost 2.5% higher even for the IT pack. Mid cap index, small cap index are strong, and that ensured that the advance decline ratio as well as the market breadth was very much in favor of the advances. The auto index, what led it higher? Well, Maruti and MM came out with their quarterly updates or monthly updates, sales updates a couple of days ago, and they saw follow-up buying yesterday, and they were the ones that actually took the markets higher. Eicher Motors very strong, above estimates. That was something that led the market higher. And when you saw Maruti's single biggest day surge since July 2024, financials also kicked in. Bajaj FinTwins as well as Kotak Mahindra Bank, all of them saw brokerage updates coming in, and they all ended higher and significantly higher, aiding the up move as far as the Nifty Financial Services was concerned as well. Now, Asian markets slightly mixed, GIFT Nifty indicating a slightly subdued start for our own markets today.
Okay, Vic, thank you so much for that. But on that note, let's look at the important stock that you should be keeping on your radar this morning. Starting with some of the Q3 FY25 updates, Bank of Maharashtra is the first one, where deposits have seen a 13.5% growth for the company in Q3, while in terms of advances, that's also seen a 21.2% growth. So decent numbers coming in from a Bank of Maharashtra. Let's move on. And Avenue Supermart, that's also in focus, and we're keeping an eye out on the company. 17% growth in terms of standalone revenue. Total numbers of stores that they've added this time is 10, while in terms of the overall stores as of December 31st is 387. So they have managed to see a better growth versus last quarter. Will be interesting to see, how the margin shape up of the company going forward. But as of now, good numbers coming in from Avenue Supermart versus what the analysts were expecting in terms of Q3 FY25. V2 Retail, that also has seen a strong performance in terms of the Q3 update rate that we're seeing. 58% YOY growth for the company. Same-store sales growth, 25% growth this quarter versus last year. And 45 stores were opened during the 9-month period. 2 stores were closed. So keep an eye out on V2 Retail. V-Mart Retail, again, this retailer also has seen a good growth, 16% growth in terms of revenue. revenues that we are seeing coming in at around 1,027 crores. Same-store sales growth stood at around 10% plus for this quarter. So interesting numbers from all these retailers. Capital Small Finance Bank, that's also a one in focus. Gross advances have seen a growth of 19.2%, deposits 12% growth, and GNPA at 2.67% versus 2.97% last year. Keeping an eye on this one on the back of its Q3 updates. Let's move on and talk about Wockhardt. Now, the Indian drug regulator has approved Wockhart's new generation oral antibiotic drug, and this is for the treatment of community-acquired bacterial pneumonia. On the back of that, Wockhardt could see some bit of an up move. Other than that, Cupid also is in focus. They've received a purchase order from Medical Stores Department, Government of Tanzania, for a supply of male condoms worth around 15 crore rupees. Keep an eye on that. And Biocon lastly also in focus. They've received an approval for an immunosuppressant, and this drug is mainly used for treating the rejection of transplant patients, or organ rejection for transplant patients. Now, this drug is approved by National Medical Products Administration in China, so an important one there for Biocon as well. But those are the stocks to watch out for. But what are the important FNOQs this morning that you should be keeping an eye out on? Hormaz is joining in with us. Good morning, Hormaz.
Morning, Winnie. An absolute cracker of a session we had yesterday, didn't we? The weekly options expiry playing out to its full potential. Massive short covering seen both on the Nifty and on the Nifty Bank. There was open interest shedding on the Nifty futures as well. And the Nifty, more importantly, is now above significant levels, be it 24,000 or be it 24,100. But whether that sustains or not in today's session is the big question, because for now, the GIFT Nifty is indicating a gap down start for our own markets. But so that 24,000 level becomes the most important one to watch out for the Nifty going forward. After multiple days of selling, for FIIs were finally net buyers in the cash market in yesterday's trading session. They were net buyers in the index futures as well. And the long short ratio now, which had fallen to around 13.5%, has improved slightly to around 19.5%. But still, FIIs are net short by about 2.2 lakh contracts on the FNO side. Clients too added around 2.2 lakh net contracts there. On the options bid, the 24,200 call has seen some bit of open interest addition, and which is why you saw some bit of resistance on that level in yesterday's trading session. We crossed that intraday but couldn't sustain above it. And the 24,700 call on the upside has also seen some bit of open interest addition there. But on the downside, the 23,900 put has seen some open interest addition there, and that could cushion any potential downside. So now 24,000 and 23,900 on the downside becomes key levels to watch, and on the upside, 24,500 will be the next level to watch out for on the Nifty. In terms of stocks, well, Manappuram remains in the FNO ban, but RBL Bank is the new addition to the FNO ban in today's session.
Okay, Hormaz, thank you so much for that. Keep an eye on those important levels that Hormaz also mentioned. But on that note, we're going to slip into a very short break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back and we'll bring you what's happening in terms of the orders that are reviewed by a U.S. court assigning cases filed by SEC and the New York criminal cases against Adani Group to a single judge. CNBC TV 18 has reviewed these orders. We'll give you more details after the break. Welcome back to Power Breakfast on CNBC TV 18. And let's move on, as CNBC TV 18 has reviewed orders that are passed by the U.S. court assigning cases filed by the SEC and New York criminal cases against the Adani Group to a single judge. Parikshit is joining in with us to give us more details on this one. Good morning, Parikshit.
Yes, good morning. This is an important update in the legal proceedings against Gautam Adani and his associates in the U.S. Now, what we have understood after reading the recent court orders is that all criminal and civil proceedings related to Gautam Adani and his associates for alleged bribery and misrepresentation have been assigned to a single judge in the United States. This does not mean that the cases have been combined. It's just that they have been all assigned to a single judge for judicial efficiency and to avoid any kind of conflicting schedules. Now, the SEC case and also the Eastern District of New York criminal case against the Adani Group are now all before one judge. What we have also been told is that they have been assigned to U.S. District Judge Garofis, but they remain separate. So there are three cases in all, and they're all based on similar allegations that arise from the same transaction of events. This was all related to Adani Green Energy Limited. And according to the U.S. Justice Department, Gautam Adani and associates actually offered bribes to state government officials in India to secure solar power contracts. Now, Adani Group has always maintained that Gautam Adani and associates have not been charged under the U.S. Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. They've only been accused of securities and wire fraud and misrepresentation by U.S. courts. So what essentially this procedural move in the United States does by assigning all the cases to a single judge is perhaps we will see expedited action in this case over the next few months.
Okay, Parikshit, thank you so much for the latest update coming in on this front. But let's move on. And now, the Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman met with stakeholders from financial sector and capital markets ahead of the budget. Industry sought simpler taxation policies and procedures. Now, this is the 7th round of pre-budget consultation ahead of the budget on the 1st of February. And moving on to some update coming in the world of quick commerce, as quick commerce platform Blinkit has launched a 10-minute ambulance service in Gurugram. In a post on social media platform X, the company's CEO Albinder Dinsad said that the company has launched 5 ambulances starting last evening, and an image attached to the post mentioned that the service will be available at the flat rate of 2,000 rupees. Each ambulance will have a paramedic, an assistant and a trained driver. Okay, on that note, we're going to slip into a very short break, but don't go anywhere. Up next, today marks the 15 years since cryptocurrency Bitcoin was launched. We get you more on the currency's journey ever since and on the other side of the show. Thanks for staying tuned into Power Breakfast on CNBC TV 18. Now, today is a special day for cryptocurrency Bitcoin, as today marks the 15th year since it was launched. Manisha Gupta is joining in with us now to give us details on the cryptocurrency's journey. Manisha, it's a happy birthday for Bitcoin.
Well, yes, it is happy birthday Bitcoin as it turns 15 on 3rd of January 2025. It was launched on 3rd of January 2009, and it has been a journey which has seen a lot of ups and many downs there. Well, one thing to remember is that we have a limited or a maximum of 21 million coins that would ever be mined, and the demand has continued to increase, keeping the prices on the higher side for a longer term there. Well, just to remind you that we have seen an all-time high for Bitcoin in the month of December for 2024 at $108,000. Back then in 2009, Bitcoin was less than $1, and that continued until mid-2010 as well. Well, there have been various reasons, especially for 2024, that took the prices to these dizzying heights where we saw prices gain up by 150%. One, you've seen Bitcoin ETFs come in. A lot of institutional interest, retail interest also seems to be building up here. And then the second thing is that there are expectations that you will see more friendly regulations as President Trump takes over within US. And then there are reports of more and more countries now adopting Bitcoin as a legal tender. These are all very supportive factors. So when you look at this this journey in last many years that Bitcoin has undertaken, 2010 clearly we saw a huge run up in case of Bitcoin, but also in last 15 years I can barely see a couple of years where you have negative returns coming in for Bitcoin, but otherwise the cryptocurrency, the first one that was launched, has given you double digit, triple digit, sometimes 4 and 5 digit percentage returns as well into the market. And yes, there have been a lot of legal concerns as well for the Indian markets as well. We have 30% tax, 1% TDS if you are trading it in cryptocurrencies, and that has led to a decline in volume. But the markets do believe that as we move forward from here, and with the way the stance really seems to be changing, you could perhaps be looking at more support coming in. In any case, for 2025, there are very high targets that we hear for cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, altcoin, and various other meme coins as well.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Manisha. And let's move on now. Investigation in the New Orleans attack and Las Vegas Cybertruck explosion in the United States reveals that the New Orleans suspect and the driver of the exploded Cybertruck served at the same U.S. military base. Now, U.S. President Joe Biden says that there are no obvious links between the two events, but agencies continue to look for any possible connections between the two incidents. Okay, and with that, we're absolutely out of time on this edition of Power Breakfast on CNBC TV 18. Thank you so much for tuning in. But up next, Bazaar Morning Call to take you through the market action.